Welcome everybody to Beers with Bill. And tonight we welcome Steve Innocente, founder and head brewer at Innocente Brew Company. And Steve, I'm going to let you take it right from there.
All right. Do you want to chat for a bit, or do you want to start off with the beers right away?
Sure, we can chat for a bit.
I mean, it's really up to you. I just have this much of a Pilsner to drink, and
Okay.
I'm okay.
Because I jumped right into Crown versus Crystal.
Oh, you're cheating. Starting too early.
I mean, I'm saving the charcoal porter for next week.
Oh, okay. I mean, some of you people are already customers, and some were customers that I haven't seen for a while, like Terry and Emma. Shame on you. By the way, yeah. So those of you who don't know, my name's Steve. I was never going to do this. I was going to be a scientist. I spent years in the lab doing my undergraduate, master's, and PhD, and 10 years as a postdoc. And it was when I was doing my postdoctoral fellowship that I really started getting hardcore into brewing. And it was there I was working with yeast, not in any brewing sense, just as a model organism, very similar to us. And so you can easily mutate them, grow up buckets of them. There's no yeast rights movement, so you're not going to get a phone call in the middle of the night, someone destroying 25 years of research. But it was from that I learned how they work, how they grow, how to take care of them, and how to use them. So I make a long story short, I just started home brewing, won a couple competitions, turned part-time pro, was still going to be a scientist, still going to have my own lab, hopefully someday become, a tenured faculty member. I just couldn't find a job. And I found out when I turned 40, I had a skill I would have never, ever imagined. I could make beer and I could sell it too. So I was part-time. I was selling beer all the way from Inverness down to London in Blighty. So I thought, okay, well, let's take the leap. Let's move back to Ontario with the help of my parents and my family. We came back in 2013, opened the brewery in 2014. So we had our sixth birthday party with no one there in May. And hopefully we'll have a 6th and 7th together. So maybe it'll be a 2-day celebration where we can camp out and enjoy ourselves. They're completely different industries on both sides of the pond. And if anyone ever wants to ask questions about that, I'm happy to talk about that. Hasn't been easy. It's been, challenging, but it's a different hat every day. And I'm actually happier now than I think I was in the lab. So it still is a giant lab. It's science. That's all it is. I just get to drink my experiments now, which is not bad.
That's great. You've answered one or two of my questions already.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Bill. Well, do you want to do the first beer?
Of course, we'll do the first beer.
So the story behind the whole Crown v something on trial Crown v Crystal is, and I'm going to be really candid with you. February 7th, 2019, I got a DUI leaving the brewery, 80 point on. If it would have been 2 months earlier, before January 1st, it would have been a 3-day suspension. But no, it was a 9-month suspension and 12 months. I'm still driving with a blowbox in the car. And something I'm not shying away from telling anyone about, because I screwed up. I don't want anyone else to do it, because it is not fun and it's not cheap. So this was a piss take on myself. So I've always wanted to do a single hop series. I'm like, well, let's just take the piss out of me and do it. So on trial, Crown v Crystal came to be. So it's using a relatively underused hop now called Crystal. At one point in time, Crystal was huge acreage of hops grown in the U.S. This particular one comes from Dean Workman's farm, or Can Aussie hops. So just north on BD line. So just a bit north of Fergus. So he's got a small 2 or 3 acre hop yard, and he's actually shutting it down this year. So this is probably going to be the last beer. And I actually had a staff member do the artwork. She was working for me at the time, so I thought let's have some fun. Let's do some different artwork. So this one is actually one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie, I love my Pilsner. If I'm gonna drink beer, I'm gonna have a nice Pils to just sit down and relax. But this one comes pretty close. To me, it's really soft and gentle, and quite a large floral note. It's really soft, gentle, and flowery. Not pouring very well either. Rookie. So what this is those of you may have had my Golden Ale Fling. It's a really simple malt base, 95% Canadian 2-row malt and 5% wheat. The wheat helps to give you nice head in the glass, and this head should last all the way down to the bottom of the glass, which is in brewing, it's a really hard thing to do. So this is really just about the hops, and so every beer in this series, the hops have been dosed exactly the same way. Same mass of hops have been used. So really just showcasing in a simple, clean malt backbone what a hop can do. And I've been trying to do ones that aren't sexy, like who would go out of their way to get a crystal double hazy IPA? No one. You would want like African Queen or Galaxy or Equinox or something like that. So this is just a hop that is boring. It's like the girl next door hop, but I think it's really nice. And smelling it, I get like flowers and a little bit of red licorice. I don't know about you folks, but it's super nice and light and crushable right there. Cheers.
I think we answered Graham's question. He was wondering what the candy flavor at the front end was.
Yeah.
I was thinking red licorice, but I wasn't completely convinced on that.
A little bit of spice too. What I find, a lot of the Ontario hops that I've used, and I've used probably 7 or 8 different types now, they all have that sort of candy note. Like every September, we try to do a wet hop ale with the Racal hops from Tavistock, which are the last hops to come off.
Yeah.
So it allows us to plan a little bit easier because we get a bit of lull early September. And when I pick them up, I'm driving back in the van and I hotbox myself in the van, Twizzlers the entire way. It's red Twizzlers. It's like you're 8, you're at the drive-in movie theater, your parents bought you Twizzlers, and you're sucking on it because you only get 2, and the movie's fucking long. So you want that thing to last. But it's just total red Twizzlers. And I don't know, it might be something in our climate that does it. We'll see if Centennial has it too. See if I'm right, or maybe not. But yeah, if there's any other questions, please ask away.
I like the idea of doing single hop beers. Gives people an understanding of what the actual hops taste like before you blend them into, when you put 3 or 4 different hops into a beer.
Well, yeah, and you get to pick out a lot of the subtleties that may fall underneath the big flavors of other hops. It's not hard to make a big double IPA. It really isn't. It's much harder to make that soft, subtle beer that, is not going to slap you upside the head, but it's got enough flavor that if you're, like you're having a can or a glass or a pint, you're like, there actually is a lot of flavor there. If you really want to sit down and think about it, it's not just, a single note, it's a depth of flavor. And those are quite the hardest to make. I mean, like, you know how I started here, like, you know, hops, IPAs, and to dial everything back and to really focus on making really good, clean, crisp beers with that fine line of flavor and not being intrusive is tough. But it's really, I'm just at the point now I make stuff that I want to drink. I mean, it's true. I don't really care anymore. You know, like the next beer we've got in a pipeline maybe next week. I'm hoping I can fit it in. It's going to be a triple IPA with Quebec. Why not? I feel like doing it. I don't necessarily know if I want to drink it, but someone will. I mean, let's just have some fun. It's been a shitty couple months, so let's just have some fun and let loose, for Christ's sake. And you know what? You don't have to wear a mask when you drink it either. We should get a special. Oh, you know what? I'll see if I can get them out. A friend of mine has a factory around the corner from us. It's called Web Class, and he does like injection molding and stuff like that. He came up with this prototype of a mask like 3-4 months ago, and it's a plastic mask, but it's got like a firm part on it where you can replace cloth. So you know, it's thinking, okay, well, you know, you go out shopping, rip the cloth off, and then you put a fresh piece of T-shirt on it. Okay, that's all right, but it also fits a can of beer very, very nicely in it. And I thought, well, there's hands-free cutting the grass right there. And I took a picture of it. Was just all down. I need to have a more of a fitted one just to keep all the beer in there. But you know, I could go to Home Depot wearing that and a beer can in there. It's a mask.
That would be an interesting experience.
Yeah, I could get drunk at the same time, as long as I'm not driving. Any other questions?
No,
Bill,
there.
do you have a question?
I'll ask one of mine. You started brewing Alchemy Brewing in Scotland.
Alchemy.
Alchemy, yeah. And at that time frame, you won some awards. You were selling beer all across the UK. And that's also about the same time that they kind of came into their own stride.
Mm-hmm.
So how much influence did you have on them getting there?
You know, to be honest, I never ever thought about it until you called me last night. You told me that you were going to ask that question, and which, incidentally, no one else has ever done. So my wife just come back from walking the dog. I never thought about that. I know he's gotten a little bit more edgy and out there, and maybe it was because like my stuff was selling well. Like I got to a point where I would send out a tweet, you know, the next batch of this is ready, and it would be 75% sold, like instantly. Which, when you're only selling in cask, because there was, you know, I didn't have a bottle shop. That was great. I could, you know, like if instantly sold out, perfect, or even 75% sold out, perfect. I'd like to think the ego in me says, yes, I influenced him. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, maybe he saw what my sales were and that may have tweaked them, or maybe that's how the industry's going. You know, people want edgier stuff now. There's more and more breweries popping up in Scotland. There's probably 5 or 6 new ones in Edinburgh alone, which is a lot. So yeah.
How much influence did he have on you?
He was always tone it down. James, I should say, Dr. James Davies. We're both PhD scientists. He went into industry, so he was working. I don't remember if it was Lilly or GlaxoSmithKline. And he got made redundant, as the British have the fantastic word, made redundant. and he took his buyout and he started the brewery. So we both had a thing for science, and how I got started brewing with him. My dog's here. Once word got around Scotland that I was like a yeast guy, I started giving talks to other brewers and home brewers about how to take care of their yeast, and so I was getting a bit of a name doing that. I didn't get any money for it. It would just be like a Sunday afternoon. Well, let's go up to this brewery, and a bunch of home brewers would be there. They're always old, gray-bearded men. It's very stereotypical in Scotland, home brewers. And I remember going to the Scottish beer festival. My wife dropped me off. It was 10:45 in the morning, raining, as it always is. And doors open at 11. There was 5 people in line. I was the 6th, and they were all older, fat, bald, bearded men. And my wife said, "This is the fucking saddest thing I've ever seen. Men lining up to get drunk." I'm like, what's wrong with that? Anyway, so it was a Friday night. I got a phone call about 10 o'clock, and it was James. And he's like, I have a contamination in my yeast strain. And he was using an odd strain called F4T. I actually never liked it. So I said, well, I was going to homebrew on Sunday, so I had cultures growing for me, and it was just USO5, what basically is USO5, California, WLP 001, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. So I had cultures growing. So he called me, and I said, okay. I went back into the institute. I booked every shaker in the neighboring 2 institutes and my institute, and I had him 60 liters of the most active culture you could ever see in this 60-liter bucket. And when I was driving out to Livingston, which is halfway between Edinburgh and Glasgow, to drop it off Sunday morning, this lid blew off violently 4 times. It was like an explosion going off. It was that active. Thankfully, nothing ever spilled in the back of my car. But so I bailed him out, and he's like, well, as a way of saying thank you, like, well, do you want your beer here? So 2012, I was officially the best home brewer in Scotland. And he's like, well, you want to brew what became Bystander here? I said, okay, well, I don't have any casks to put it into because it was all cask. He's like, well, I just started. I still have spare casks. Do you want to use those? I said, okay. I said, but I don't have any money to pay you. Well, pay me when you get paid. Okay. So there's no risk. No. And that was it. I'm like, well, why not? I went home, talked to my wife. She's like, sounds pretty good. Let's try it. So we did. And the rest is a long, painful history for me. But I wouldn't give it up.
Why painful?
Have you seen my knees? They're shot. Yes. Oh, they're better now, actually. Just as I had a phone consult today with the doctor, I was hoping to get a cortisone shot in one of them. And if I had to answer the phone call, I was going to put it against my knee, hoping it had a very, very long needle to inject it. But yeah, no such luck. But we're back in that 6-week lull where I can walk again. 6 weeks from now, I won't be able to walk. Oh, there's always beer. Any questions? We want to move on to the next beer.
And move on to the next beer, if you want.
Sure. I still have half here. I don't drink fast. Yes. Derek.
This is maybe a bit of a funny question, just for shits and giggles, but unfortunately I didn't get a chance to make it up to pick up the beers for tonight, but I found this old beauty in the fridge.
Holy fuck.
2015.
Yeah?
And I just wondered, what are your thoughts on what kind of tasting notes it might have after this time? I'm about halfway through it.
I would think it'd be pretty tired, because it wasn't it was Maybach we did. Pretty light from what I remember, copperish.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
Got a bit of a
In the
sour-
bottle, so the bottle would be counter pressure filled, and we were pretty good at making sure our bottling line was always clean. I would hope there's no nothing growing in it.
No, it seems
It's just probably a bit muted.
yeah, and it's maybe got a hint of sourness now as well, but still it's got a lot of caramel and it's, I'm gonna finish it. It's not a drain pour by any means, so
That label I designed myself. That
Oh,
was
yeah?
back in the shoestring budget days.
Okay.
Not that we've changed. I just can't be arsed to figure out Adobe Illustrator.
I was saving it to drink.
Boggles my mind.
Was gonna drink it while I watched Uncle Buck, but after 5 years, that hasn't happened yet. So here it is. Good time tonight.
That's good. I mean, I still have a bunch of beers that I have out back, just sitting at ambient temperature, whatever that may be. And from time to time, I'll crack one open just to see. And by and large, they've been okay. Like there's nothing like they're dead. There's nothing to they shouldn't be consumed, but they're not they don't taste like a tramp's dick. That's what Bill told me. Bill told me what it tasted like. He does border on a park.
Do you recommend not consuming this after 5 years then? Or?
No, I think it's okay.
Yeah. It's all right to me, so.
5. So what date was it bottled on? It should be.
It's either February 4th or
it's
or
day,
April
month,
2nd.
year.
Day, month,
Day.
year. Okay, so April 2nd, 2015.
Oh wow!
Yeah, 5.5 years.
It takes me back.
Yeah.
Is it a stamp or did we handwrite it?
It's a stamp. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Printed
All right.
on the label, actually. I don't even think it's a stamp.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did print those on the label because it was a small run, so it's probably bottled around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's my
Great,
little
man.
history exhibit for you.
I do miss bottles. Everything shifted to cans. Like when we had our porter, for instance, in the LCBO in a bottle, I think it was at $4.25 a bottle, and we couldn't keep up. It sold like hotcakes. We switched to cans. It's sitting at $3.10 in a can for almost the same volume, 500 mils versus 473, and it doesn't sell as well. And I'm losing a $1.35 for 20 mils. It's cans are artificially cheap. It can't go on. Like to really make ends meet comfortably, I would have to raise my can prices by at least 50 cents each can.
Why do you think the can doesn't sell relative to the bottle?
Well, I think they're different issues. But for let's just say the porter, I would have to sell 1.8 times cans as I would bottles. So it's almost a 2 to 1. So it's just that people have this cans are cheap. I can get Busch Light for $2.70 can. Why would I spend $4 for an IPA? Well, I get that. I mean, it depends what you want to do. You want to just get hammered? Okay. Do your $2.70. If you want to enjoy something, don't do your $2.70. I think places like the LCBO, you will see prices starting to creep up now, especially with Bellwoods in there. They've set everything at $5 can. So I don't like to gouge people, to be honest. I've not increased my prices for a glass of beer. It's been $5 since May 16th, 2014. It's $5 now. My hydro's gone up, my taxes have gone up, everything's gone up. But I don't want to be a douche and overcharge people. I still just want people to come in and have a good time. But I think but why would you come in and buy a glass of beer, a porter, for $5 when you can buy a can for $3.25? Like, why not just buy a can?
Yeah.
There's like a disconnect there. You know, cans should be $5. It's a lot of money for a can, but you'll pay that for a pint. Or, well, Ontario governmental pints, as I call them. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just cans are crazy. It you know, it really is. But we're stuck with it. Like, no one's going to buy a bottle now. I mean, I think the pendulum will swing back the other way, and everyone will be like, well, I don't want to buy a can. I want to buy a bottle. And then everyone will scramble to buy bottling lines and buy bottles. Like, cans are almost impossible to find now. I'm buying 10 times what I would normally buy. You know, instead of buying one pallet at a time, which I could afford, you know, $1,500 for a pallet of cans, I'm now buying 10 pallets at a time because I don't know when I can get them next. And you don't know if we're going to be shut down again. And my only way to sell beer is in cans. If we're shut down, I need cans. And then where do I put them? Most of you have been in my place. It's a fucking Tetris in the morning. Moving shit in and out. If it rains, we're just done. Like, might as well just go home. We're not doing anything because we can't move. We got pallets on top of pallets. And, yeah. First world problems. Bear in mind, it's really a first world problem. In the grand scheme of things, we can deal with it, but it's something you didn't necessarily plan for. Just like when you know, like I see Cam here, like when bars and pubs shut down, we had all of our kegs back, and for every keg you have out at a bar, pub, or restaurant, you have 4 back. So we suddenly had every keg we had back. Where do we put these things? We didn't know what to do with them. They were all just tripping over everything, all over the place. We weren't designed for it. So when the retail store end was shut down, then we could start moving stuff around to the front. And then Friday when they opened it up, it's like, fuck, what do we do with all this stuff now? We got to move it all back around, outside, inside, outside, using vans for storage. You know, neighboring units storing malt at HD Supply, and I've got cans over at the Cloverdale paint shop. I guess you do what you can. But, yeah. Fun times. Are we ready for the next beer?
I'm ready for the next beer. I've actually been enjoying it. It's definitely a Centennial hop.
Yeah. So this one, it's been a very long time since I brewed with Centennial. Centennial is sort of the classic old IPA hop, and there's a lot of IPAs that are done using Centennial. It's a great workhorse. You can use it for bittering. It's good, clean bittering. You can use it for flavoring and aroma. It's good and clean there. This Centennial came from Tavistock, the folks at the Tavistock Hop Company. Kyle and his partner, oh God, I'm blanking on his name. It's going to piss me off now. It's a good family-run place. Really lovely folks. I love going out there wet hop time. So normally, like when I do a wet hop, I start the brew, I mash in, then I drive out to Tavistock as quickly as I can, pick up the hops. What I never account for is the hour of chit chat that I have. And then by the time I get back, the mash is like, you know, three hours old. And it's like, oh shit, yeah, I got to carry on to the brew day. Ends up being, you know, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock by the time I'm out of there. They're just such good folks. And their land, the terroir of their land is actually pretty good for growing hops. Good drainage. They've got a creek running through their property. Hops require an absolute ton of water. I forget, was it 20? I forget the numbers Kyle told me, but it was just astounding how much water they require. And he also has chickens, because hops are the second fastest growing plant known to mankind after bamboo. So they need a lot of nitrogen. So you need to fertilize a lot. Chickens, their poop has a lot of nitrogen. So he's got chickens on the property too. So anytime I go out there, I also get eggs, which are very, very good eggs. I've had eggs that are warm, still warm, because they were freshly laid that day. So he's trying to be as self-sustaining as possible, and he also has a day job, and he works at one of the chicken places nearby. So he also gets the poop from there to fertilize his hops. But he is probably one of the better hop growers in the province of Ontario, and everyone is basically deferring to him because he's done all the research and all the science behind it. But this guy, I just get like big, juicy fruit. Pineapple is what I get. But we also have that candy note. Again, sort of that bit of a hint of red Twizzler. But I get like mango, pineapple. A little bit of mango, pineapple. And I'm actually not a huge pineapple guy. I don't mind the taste, the texture. Pineapple on a pizza is proof Satan exists. I think that's pretty obvious. Cheers.
Get the mango and the pineapple right on the back end.
Yeah. Again, it's still clean and crisp and light.
Yep.
This one finished. It doesn't taste it, but it finished super dry, and I was worried that we had an infection because it kept fermenting and fermenting and fermenting and fermenting. I'm like, why are you not stopping? And kept checking the gravity. I don't detect anything. It's just, it's almost like the hops have the sweetness to them, and they're covering the dryness from the beer, which I don't mind. I mean, I think the difference between a professional and amateurs, I sometimes make some mistakes.
We're a million questions behind now.
Let's answer questions because I need to drink a beer.
So I'm just going to do them in the order I kind of got them. I think the best is Terry had an interesting one. Have you ever shipped beer back to Edinburgh?
Yes, I did twice. There was a guy I was dealing with, SoCan Imports. So I shipped beer back there, and all the people I used to deal with bought it up. It was great. I loved it, and I got a lot of feedback. One of the biggest things I got the feedback, and it's one of the reasons why the labels of this series of beer look like this, is that the beer is fantastic, the labels are boring. So I'm like, okay, well, let's spice up the labels a wee bit. Yeah, so I've shipped beer back to Edinburgh twice, and I've shipped beer to Germany once, which was nice. Questions?
David Hussey wants to know, how has the craft beer scene changed or evolved in the last 6 years, in your perspective?
Specifically KW.
Mm-hmm. There's more of us. I think there's more just your average folk getting on board. I think it's about to change again after this. Maybe for the better, hopefully for the better, but I mean, like, how many breweries are there around now? Like, Cambridge is ridiculous. Really. It can't support
Cambridge
that.
specifically makes no sense. Like, considering the
makes no
population,
sense.
like how many there are per capita is crazy.
Mm-hmm. I think people are more, I don't necessarily say it a craft beer thing. People now like are supporting local. Like when this whole COVID thing started, March 17th, when they shut everything down, we lost 75% of our sales immediately. Done. Thought, fuck, we're not going to survive. I had 2,400 liters of a barrel-aged beer in tank that wasn't selling. Okay, let's turn that into hand sanitizer. I just built a still, and used it. It was a 100 liter still, so it was taking a long time to go through 2,400 liters, and I was just giving it away. Like, it's totally legal for me to have any of it, totally legal for me to do any of it, just giving it away. Thinking, okay, if we're gonna die, we're gonna go out. I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory, helping wherever I could. Now, I'm not saying I'm a saint. Like, if we survived, then that's great. Fucking PR, is it not? And we still have some. We still give it away. We gave it away to hospitals. So I took the retail value of $30,000 worth of beer and converted it into hand sanitizer. 400 liters of hand sanitizer, and I gave it away to hospitals. Police got some. There's a couple long-term care facilities that got some. But why I'm going on to this tangent is local. People are starting to figure out local is better. Let's deal with the people in our neighborhoods. Let's keep our money here. I personally buy milk from EV Manor. I buy meat from Butcher's Cut up on Colby, or Brady's if I happen to have a lot of money. But it's phenomenal. Fruit and veg stands around. I buy there, and I think people are just like, oh well, what's in my neighborhood? Google. Oh yeah, there's a microbrewery in my neighborhood. Maybe I'll go there. And I think that's really going to transform it, and I think it's going to help us out quite a bit. Of the breweries that are around, I don't know who's going to survive and who's not. I really don't. I think people, you've got your sort of, I'm upset that Kickoff is no more because it was one of my favorite places. And first time I went in there when I was talking to Troy, I was thinking of setting up a microbrewery. So, what kind of support can I expect? And I remember walking in, there was no one else in there. And the first thing I smelled was urinal pucks. I'm like, I'm fucking home. This is awesome. I don't want anything else. I want, you keep all the paint on the windows, keep the dank in, because this is I love a place where everyone looks around. Who is that? As long as you have good beer. I love an old man's bar. So even as a kid, I loved an old man's bar. I don't want to go to a dance club. I want to go to an old man's bar. And with Kickoff being gone, we've got this. There's much fewer choices for a proper beer place. But I think, we've had beer being delivered to places that wouldn't necessarily have craft beer. When they opened stuff up, Molson Labatt's had no beer. Like, for instance, St. Louis down at the end of my plaza, they couldn't get any beer from Molson Labatt's. He's like, no, take whatever you have. Done. Send it off to you. Thirsties. Can't get any beer. What do you got? Send it off to you. And then people liked it, and we ended up with having a tap. I'll take that. So, one step at a time. We're still dealing with the beer store and the LCBO, the gatekeepers. So there's still a lot of stuff to do with. But, small steps now. I know it was a rather long-winded, crazy answer, but I hope I did answer. Please. Perfect.
David wanted to know, too, if the shift to cans was a cost saving.
No, not necessarily. Cost saving in terms of volume I could pump out. I could bottle 4 bottles a minute. I can 14 to 16 cans a minute now. We actually just finished a modification of the canning line today. I've got to do a few tweaks on it, but we had just doubled it. We're at about 25 cans a minute. And it was actually flying. It was too much for it. It couldn't deal with it. We had to slow it down. There's a savings with it when we can kill a tank term we use. So each one of my tanks, if you've been in my place, we've got the 20 barrel tanks, but 2,500 liters. We can can that off in about 6.5 hours. if I could cut that time down to 3 hours, then I could can 2 tanks off in a day, and still be in relatively decent shape and not look into paying staff overtime. Which it sounds like I'm this like corporate douchebag, but every dollar counts now. We're still down 25% in sales, so I got to try to find a way to save as much as I can. And if I can find efficiencies, and this by spending $50-$60 locally sourced stuff to make it work, then I'm very happy. But yeah, it's 4 to 5 to 1 right now, canning versus bottling.
Yep. Cam had a point to make, but then that's because of his Belgian influence, okay? He doesn't like cans. He likes bottles with a cork and a foil, sort of like the icing with the cherry on top.
Yes, but whatever Cam says doesn't matter. We know that.
Remy wonders why people didn't go to a 355 ml can.
That's a good point. Like we did 2 summers ago, where it was hard to get the 473 ml cans. A lot of people said, "Oh, it was Trump and a tariff." No, it actually wasn't. It was bullshit. It was the big breweries bought up every fucking can they could to screw us over because they can afford to. And so cans were in shortage. So we temporarily switched to 355 ml cans, and which required, like, I had to weld up. Thank God I took a welding class at Conestoga College. So I actually had to weld up a new twist rinser in, like a third rail, because the cans are much shorter. And we had to adjust everything. It was about a 2-week job to switch it over. And once we got it dialed in, it was working beautifully. So from like 14 cans a minute to 473, we're about 25 cans a minute to 355. But if it wasn't working, there was no margin for error because everything is going so fast. And you're like, shit, we can't keep up. No, just jammed. Oh, everything was, it was horrible. But you can actually make a little bit of money with that because people would still pay the same price for a 355 as they will a 473. But then I don't want to gouge my customers came back into me, and so we switched back to 473s. I thought, value for money is pretty important too. So we switched back to the 473s. I mean, I still have all the kit there. We can switch over. It'll probably be a 2-hour job now. And the canning line was designed for it, but I'm the only person that's ever done it. And it worked. But yeah, it is a way to make a little bit more money off a can, to be honest.
Yeah. Mr. J wants to know if you think you maybe could store the cans at kickoff.
Pallets are 8 feet tall.
Yeah, doorway's a little too narrow.
I could drive it over in a forklift, but I'd have to go full speed through the front window, if that's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of downside to even contemplating something like that.
Oh, okay. I thought there's a lot of upside, but finally the dank would be let out. It's like when a power tool dies and, that magic smoke comes out of it, all the dank could be let out at kickoff.
Are cans better for maintaining the integrity of the beer?
I honestly don't think it really matters. To be honest, when we fill a bottle, we're counter pressure filling the bottle. So what I mean by that is fill heads come down, they pressurize that bottle. The way we had our our bottling line set up, it would pressurize 3 times, evacuate, pressure 3 times, and then it would fill, venting off the CO2 at a very controlled rate. I think bottling is far superior way of ensuring there's no oxygen pickup in your line. Okay. Canning lines are my fill heads come down. There's 3 of them. There's 2 banks of 3. They purge the can of O2, so there's 2 CO2 purges, and then the beer starts. And then as the head comes up, more CO2 is injected to create a foaming fob on top of that beer. And then when that can goes through and the lid gets applied, you're applying that lid on foam, so you're keeping all the oxygen out. If you have all of that shit running perfectly, cans are not bad. You can be okay. And we've done accelerated aging studies on our cans, and they're actually not bad for how basic and how local our canning line is, because it was made in Waterloo. It's not bad. But I would say for long term, bottles are better with a cork and a cage and a foil if you're from Belgium. I'm surprised you don't have 3 thumbs being from Belgium.
We all know Cam. Jerry wanted to know what your percentage of sales were, the percentage of keg to sales pre-COVID.
Yeah, so we were about 60-40. So retail store, 60%, 40% to licensees. Of that 40%, overall, 15% was the LCBO and 25% was the licensees, which would be our keg sales to outside. But then we also have our draft sales, which are also keg sales because we fill kegs and dispense from them. So overall, I'd say we're probably 35-40% keg sales, which are starting to pick up nicely. I mean, it's a higher profit way to get rid of beer. You know, I'd rather fill a 58-liter keg than do 120-ish cans. I just don't want to lift it anymore.
That's what you hire young people for.
Absolutely.
Mr. J wants to know, did you have to get a license to make your own, to create the hand sanitizer for having a still?
No. Well, yes, but I didn't. I just did whatever I wanted.
So what you're saying is you needed a license, but you ignored the rules?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did. And you know what? I do it again.
David, we've got some editing to do after this.
You know what? You can make it public. I don't care.
Not a problem.
At that time, we didn't know what we were dealing with. And I thought the hospitals were up shit's creek. So I ended up being part of a group. It was called COVID Health. So there was a bunch of lawyers, public health people, a whole bunch of factories, distilleries involved. You cannot believe how unprepared our public health system was. They had nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so by us making hand sanitizer, by any means possible, is what they required. And, you know, I did it for a month. It was, eventually, like I started off with my small one, 70 liters, 100 liters total. When I joined the group, I got Murphy's Law Old Still, which was 350 gallons. So what's that? 700 liters ish, math right? 350 liters, not 350 gallons, 350 liters. So, and it was a strange thing. It really was. When Ben said, I have the still sitting here in my retail space, it's a museum piece. Come and get it, and let's start working. So I contacted a few friends of myself, riggers, industrial electricians, welders, and honest to God, within 90 minutes, I had that still from Elmira. It's my brewery, wired in and running water. And it was like, and I had engineered, it's just like, I didn't know that this was ever going to happen. I put this wiring in just in case I ever wanted to have an electrical pilot kit. I had all this wiring already fished, ready to go. All we needed to do was plunk the panel on where I wanted to have this. It was like God told me to do this years ago. Do that. 90 minutes, we had this thing running. The next day, we figured out a few problems with it. The next day, we had this still running. And from, doing 10, 20 liters at a time with my little still, we were able to, in a week, do about 2,500 liters of beer. Distill that into 300 liters of 80 to 90% ethanol. And it worked. The problem with it, when you have ethanol at that concentration coming off still, it likes to blow up. And a brewery is not designed to be an explosion-proof environment. And it doesn't need to be, because it's not. I'm dealing with maybe 13, 14% ethanol maximum. That's not a problem. It's when you get above 40, the flash point you have to start worrying about. So when I was doing these runs, I would do during the whole week the first runs, and then collect all of those things. Anything down about 40. I was doing about 35%, and I would collect about 350 liters of that, diluted in the 40%. Then at the weekend, when there was no one around, I put that back in the still and run it. And this is the one that, puckered me up. This was dangerous. So make sure everything was off. Every power utensil I had was off. There was nothing running. Open the back door, open the front door, have a great big industrial fan blowing across, and then I would do that second distillation run. And first one was frightening, to be honest. But after that, I figured out how it worked. And instead of using water to cool, because your ethanol vapors come up, and then you have a condensing stack or line arm, as they call, and you would use water to cool that, and then it would condense the alcohol vapors down back to liquid, and you collect it. Well, the amount of water I was using was just astronomical. So I thought, well, I have glycol sitting at -5 degrees. I just plumbed in the glycol line to it. Couldn't smell a bloody thing. There was no alcohol vapors at all because it worked. And then I was happy to run it whenever people were around, because I would come in extra early or extra late and run it when no one's around. I didn't want customers in there if there was an explosion going to happen. But we did it. I think I made 400, maybe 500 liters of 70% hand sanitizer. The amount of local help I had was just astronomical. Like Wallenstein Feed Mills getting me glycerol as an ingredient. The UW helping out, getting me testing equipment. One of my testing equipment suppliers, Anton Parr, gave me a $6,000 instrument to check the alcohol levels, which I've now bought at a greatly reduced rate, mind you. But so like everyone chipped in. Like a local label shops, like I'll print you labels. Like everyone helped out, and I think making it public and doing what I could do, I don't regret that. And you know what? I don't care what the law says. I'll do it again. I did receive the phone call from the federal excise people saying, we really appreciate what you're doing, but you don't have a license for it. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Can we get a license? That's 6 to 8 months. Oh, okay. Can you give me a temporary 3-month one, like now? Because I'll just do it till this is over, because this is not what I want to do. No, you gotta stop doing that. I said, I'm giving it away. Oh, we really appreciate that, but you gotta stop doing that. Okay, all right. I didn't stop, but I have stopped now. We don't need it anymore, so I'm not doing it. But I ended up trading a lot of it for pork at home, a few things for the brewery, a whole bunch of charities like CMHA. They were up Schitt's Creek, and they're one of their directors is like a regular customer. She's like, can you get me this? Done. There you go. How much money? Nothing. Go. Catholic camp. Done. Here you go, because they're not going to survive this. I'm not going to charge you for hand sanitizer. You did what you could, and I don't regret it.
That's good. Good. And you talking.
I'm not saying I'm a saint. Not at all. I'd do it again, though. I think every one of us would, too. Right? Yeah. You do what you can.
Yeah. Val has a question.
Shoot.
What's the biggest contributor to the cost of a can of beer?
I'm trying to look at my spreadsheet in my head. I would say rent for me. Rent, labor, tax, in that order.
Makes sense.
The next one would be hydro, and then ingredients.
Yeah. And a can is sort of the cheapest thing in the whole thing.
Yeah, a can. We switched, like you've seen, we switched to the black cans now. I initially switched to them because it was all I could get. And then I put the labels on them. I'm like, they're kind of sharp. I like them. So they're about 19 cents a can, and then that lid is another 2.5 cents or so. So maybe 21, 22, 23 cents. But the labels are about 20 cents a label. So that's expensive stuff, unless you buy 50,000 labels at a time. But I don't want to type all that money right now. So I just, you do what you can.
Yep. Pass on a statement from Remy. Pardon the French. Holy fuck, these beers are so good. It's been a while since I've had Innocente beers. Now I'm kicking myself for having missed out.
Merci beaucoup.
Graham wants to know if you wrote the story down. This is, and I get this, this is part of cultural history.
Which story?
The whole dialogue of like what you did in the middle of COVID to make hand sanitizers.
No, I didn't. And honestly, I worked 21 days straight, and then my knees blew up, and I had to take a day off because I couldn't work. I couldn't stand. I couldn't drive. I've got a manual. I couldn't operate the clutch. I was physically lifting my leg onto the clutch and pushing down with my hand on my knee, and then lifting it off, changing. Thank God there was no cars on the street, because line 86 in Northfield, because I live in Aurora, I didn't stop at that light a lot of times because I couldn't. It just kept on going right on through. It was kind of a crazy, almost fun time, because there was a couple nights I actually slept at the brewery because I'm brewing beer to make ends meet, and then I need to get this distillation in because the hospital and the police services need this hand sanitizer 2 days from now, so I need to do all of this. And we were just juggling everything, and then we had laid off a lot of our staff because we didn't know what was going to happen. So it was only me at that time in the back. I'm 48 years old, man. It nearly killed me. So now I've got two good guys with me, and it's nice. I can actually almost right now do nothing for an afternoon, and I like it. Really, really, really like it. But no, I didn't write anything down. I never thought about it because I'm living in the moment, to be honest. But remember, like, I was having doubts about it. My wife said, she's like, you know what? You're doing work for your province. You're doing work for your country, and you're doing work for your God. Keep doing what you're doing. And that was a lot of inspiration to me. It's just work through the pain with my knees and just carry on. And I'm not saying I did a lot. I made some fucking hand sanitizer, for Christ's sake. It's not a big deal. And I know we would all do the same thing because we're good, decent human beings. That's what good, decent human beings do. But you know, the one thing, because I was also working the retail store too. When I started doing it and I made it public that I was just giving it away, I had these 3 young girls in, and they were not from the same family, but they were taking care of elderly people in their household. And they're like, well, we went to a hasty market to try to get some hand sanitizer, and I was doing like 50 mil, little 50 mil bombs, 60 mil, I think. They said, oh yeah, this particular market was charging $40 for that. And I'm like, fuck off. That just pissed me off. They're like, oh, we'll buy some beer, we'll donate to charity. I said, take this and get out of here. That's it. You know, pay it forward to someone else. Doesn't matter. And I would get like older ladies come in and they'd be looking through the retail store. You know they didn't drink beer. You know they didn't drink beer. You know, they just wanted the hand sanitizer, but they felt obliged to buy beer. It's like, please don't. If you don't want it, don't have it go to waste. I'll sell it to someone else. Just take it and go. Would you want some money? No, I don't. If you want to donate to charity, do that. Charities are fucked. Do it, please. Hopefully, maybe I caused some people to donate to charity, but I don't know. And I do it again. Any day.
Maybe we should get Steve, you and I on a call, and Steve, maybe we can pull together a piece to throw on our site, and if you want to throw on yours too, like as a amateur and semi-professional historian, maybe we could pull something together.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm up for that. I love my history. I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't. I live in a historically designated house. It's a pile of shit right now, but if I ever get finished, it means I'm dead. But it will be restored to its original 1892 glory under my watch. I'm 100%, David. Yeah, anytime. Bill can give you my details.
Great.
Don't hesitate to contact me.
Also, Steve, as a total aside, as somebody who drives that route all the way up to Aurora a lot because he's dating somebody out there, that is a dangerous intersection not to stop at. So
I know, but you've got 500 meters either way, and there was no one on the roads then. No one.
Sure.
My drive times, I could get, and I did this once. I could get from the brewery to home in Aurora in 12 minutes. I won't tell you how fast I was going, but there was fucking no one around. It was just boom, 150, go.
I also did half of a computer science degree with a lot of math, and so I can quickly pull together the average speed to do that. That's insane.
Fast. Yeah, along Middlebrook Road, not Northfield either.
Yeah.
I like corners. Anyway, shall we move on to some sours? Yeah.
We're sort of past the hour point. I'm fine to continue. I want to make sure that you have the time.
Oh, I'm great. I'm just worried if the light fails, but my camera still looks all right. You can see me. It's getting a bit dark, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to go. If people want to go, they're fine.
Okay.
You're not going to harm my feelings.
And Jen, Berliner Weiss, the next one.
The Berry Berliner.
The Berry Berliner.
Is that named after Verbanovic?
No.
Okay.
No. The original name for this, and my family and I went to the Waterloo Regional Museum. They had a display a while ago of, I think it was called Berlin 1914, and it was about that changeover of the name during the First World War to Kitchener, Lord Kitchener. And I had this beer in tank, and I didn't have a fucking name for it. And I couldn't figure out anything. And then I thought, boom, it's there. It's in our history. It's in our local history. So I called it Kitchener Weiss. Sorry, we called it Berliner Weiss, but then Berliner crossed out with Kitchener above. So the original beer was Kitchener Weiss, but it didn't have any fruit in it. So we've just carried on doing it with various names and various labels. It's all really the same malt backbone, same beer. Sometimes we use local strawberries from Trevor at Hurley's. Sometimes we've used local fruit from other places. That does add a lot more work to it. So lately we've been doing just fruit purees, which saves me a day of hard manual labor, which I like. So the Berry Berliner, you all probably know what a Berliner Weisse is. It is a highly wheat content beer. This particular one is 60% wheat, 40% Pilsner malt. It is brewed. There's no hops added. That beer, in my brewery, that beer is transferred out into the fermentation tank, relatively high temperature, 42, 44 degrees Celsius. Lactobacilli are pitched. So the same bacteria that create or will sour your milk into yogurt, we can use to sour beer. And then we monitor the pH. And when the pH drops down to the level, then we'll transfer it back in. Or I should say that's the way we used to do it. Now, I hadn't realized, and as a scientist, I'm kicking myself. I should have fucking known this. The pH drop is not mutually, or is mutually exclusive to a lactic acid production. So your pH may drop, but your lactic acid levels have not increased yet. So I had always wondered why my sours were a little bit variable, and I didn't like it. So we developed a lactic acid assay with what we had on hand and what I could get out of my friends at UW, so we could actually monitor the lactic acid levels. It's a pain in the ass, but it works. So with these next two beers, the Goza and the Berry Berliner, we've been able to monitor the lactic acid levels and dial it in so they can be done again. So when we pitch our lacto, we let it ferment till we get our lactic acid levels back, and then we pump that back into the kettle to give it a quick boil. And then that's where we'll start adding some hops, transfer back out into the same fermentation tank after we've cleaned it, and then we'll pitch our yeast. That way I know I can keep it as clean as possible. I don't want any butyric notes or diacetyl notes, which would be an infection. I'd rather control as much as I can at this stage. I realize this is kind of a bit commercially production, but you know, when you're dealing with 2,500 liters of beer and it tastes like a tramp's cock, like Bill says, I don't want that to happen. So this one, and Bill, I believe you have a question about water.
Yes, I
did. This leads into this. Do you want to ask me a question about water?
Well, we all know that the region is notorious, well, the whole southern Ontario is notorious for hard water. The region draws off of 3 wells differently every day, which probably presents a lot of different challenges for you when it comes to brewing beer.
Yes, and with, in particular, this beer, or any sour beer, and I've tried it in the past, if I use Kitchener-Waterloo beer and I try to make it sour, it never sours because all the calcium in it buffers it.
Yep.
So where we are, so there's wells, and then there's also the Mannheim surface water plant, and it varies from day to day, and I can't predict what my water is going to be like. So in the summertime, they're drawing more from the wells, less from the surface. Winter and springtime, especially if it's warmer in the winter, they're drawing more from the surface water, which is softer than what they're doing from the wells. So my water is probably some of the hardest brewing water on the planet. It is really freaking hard. So when we switch over, like this Berliner Weisse with raspberries, we actually start off with distilled water. And then I mimic Berlin's water profile by adding salts. then that way I know the Berliner is going to taste as close as I can make it to tasting like it's from Berlin. And same thing with my Pilsner. I mimic, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Pilsner called Jaeger or Jefe. So I mimic their water because I love Jaeger in Germany.
Yep.
It doesn't travel so well here. But but conversely, our water works brilliantly for the porter. Irish red, perfect. Nice, chalky, firm, excellent. Double IPA, I would do water treatment again. I would start off with distilled, and I actually do a blend of Berlin and Jaeger's water for that. So it just softens everything down. I bet you don't get those harsh, bitter notes out of it. Like I can do the same hops with our water, same hops with, like a blended water profile. It's night and day beer. And it's just straight chemistry. I mean, there's entire books on it. If you ever have trouble sleeping, just open up one of these. You'll be done. Minutes. They're so fucking boring. But it's so important. It's everything. It's everything in the brewery. And with us, it changes all. So, there's days when I'll like mash in and I'll go off my previous brew sheets for that same batch, which is on average we're doing one every month of the same beer. Okay, well, this is how much acid I added to reduce the pH in the water and the HLT. And then I get the mash and I check the mash pH. I'm like, fuck, it's all over the place. What the hell's going on? But the water's changed. Nothing else has changed, just the water's changed. Yeah. I should probably be titrating the water beforehand and looking at it, but I can't be yours. I really can't. A lot of extra work. I'd be planning.
You're going to end up with that total lab eventually, aren't you?
Well, yeah, we're working on it. Yeah. Yeah.
David had a question.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp?
Well, that
it's got to be Johnny Depp.
I think it might be. Like this is the first time we've done a male on the can, and so this is Centennials came out of what, 90s, right? So it's probably Johnny Depp like, or I'm thinking someone from Friends. But yeah, Bill, is that your place? Your high crime Woodstock neighborhood?
That's my next door neighbor's daughter trying to get her cigarettes out of his car.
Okay. Good. Yeah, so nice, simple, clean, crisp beer. Berry note, not overly tart, not overly sour. Your teeth and enamel are still going to be there at the end of the day. You're not going to be pooping teeth out tomorrow, which is a good thing, I think. I mean, I'm 48. Pooping in general is just a good thing now.
Graham has a question.
Shoot.
Buy water from a water company or process and purify it internally?
Yeah, good question. I don't have the space to have all the equipment that I need right now. So we have GWS right down the street from us. Jeremy's a phenomenal guy, and he'll just ship over 4,000 liters for me. They come in 4 1,000-liter totes. We take them off. We've done up to 16 of them at a time. So we'll have it ready. We tend to cluster beers that we need to do water treatment to together. So we'll start off. We'll drain our what we call an HLT. So that's our hot liquor tank. So that's what holds all of our brewing water. We'll drain that down. We'll try to use it everywhere we can. And then we need to clean the scale out. And we've had like 2 inches of scale inside that thing. And it just is nasty because it won't go down the drain. It just clogs up, so you're scraping it out. So we get all of the scale off, and then we need to hit the HLT with acid to get off everything, because I don't want to, because distilled water will most likely dissolve anything left that I can't see, and I don't want to screw up that water profile I'm trying to make. So I'll strip it out with acid, then I'll run that acid through every bit of water pipe that is connected to the brew house, so I can clean that too, and then down the drain, rinse everything, and then we pump in 4,000 liters into the kettle, and we start to warm it up, and then we can warm it up, and I can start the whirlpool and get it spinning, and then that's where I start to add my salts, and I pump that through the heat exchanger, then back into the hot liquor tank, ready for the next day of brew. So it's about an afternoon to get ready to do this. The next day, if we're doing another batch, so at the end of a brew, I have this wort that's sitting in a kettle, and it's at 100 degrees Celsius. I need to cool it off. Then I'll go through a heat exchanger, which will counterflow city water against that to cool it down. And that city water, now hot, will go back into our hot liquor tank. But I don't want city water in there. I want distilled water in there, so I can do the next water-treated batch. So then we rejig all the pipe work, and we have totes of water that we hook up with the pump, and we got to adjust the speed of the pump to give us the right cooling that we do. It's a bit of a pain in the ass, but we've done it so many times that it's okay now. That's why we tend to cluster them as much as possible. So we'll get 4,000 liters a day, and we'll just keep doing the next 4,000 liters. We can add our salts to the hot liquor tank ready for the next day. We'll just have it on a recirculation system where the pump's recirculating the water in it to get all that salt into a solution, and then we're ready to go. So it's a little bit more work. Cost-wise, it's actually not too bad, because I'm not running water through my water meter, so I'm not paying sewerage on it. So it's a little bit more, but it's not actually that much more.
I have a question, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
So when you first opened, you spent a lot of money to ensure that your neighbors didn't smell a brewery.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
It ended up being a building problem, to be honest. It wasn't my problem. We still installed an exhaust fan to suck out the hot air, which we use quite often. But yeah, it was really a landlord issue, and they've now fixed it. They spent a lot of money to fix it, or they could have just built a building right to begin with. But yeah.
And then I have one last question. If you could hop in a time machine and go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
That's a good one. I would say I set the brewery up based on 25% LCBO sales, 35% licensee sales, and what's that, 40% sales out of the retail store, if my math is correct. Which it clearly wasn't, but I would probably start with half the size of what I did, because I hadn't realized how much of a nightmare it was dealing with the LCBO. This would have never prepared me. Yeah, would I not do it? No, I'm happy what I'm doing. But yeah, I would scale back.
Okay.
If there's any questions regarding that, please ask. Sorry, I'm getting bitten. Oh, no, it's strange. I know. is a government agency difficult to work with? It's really odd. Although now with all this COVID shit, the AGCO is a dream to deal with. They don't give a fuck. Whatever goes. I applied for what's called a tied house license, which will allow me to sell cider and wine. My liquor inspector, whom I've complained to multiple MPPs about, called me a couple weeks ago. She's like, yeah, you know what? You're a good guy. I don't need to come into the brewery. I've seen it before. I'm just going to stamp this. You're okay. I'm going to sign off on it. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh, your tied house license. Oh, okay. Now I'm just going to sign off on it. All right. Done. Like, if this carries on, this is transformative. But we still have dipshits at the LCBO that we need to deal with. And they are just... you know what? Bill, how much time do we have? Time out.
Let's go.
You want to go home? Okay. Yeah.
No, hit me with the story.
It was the story of how I got my first beer into the LCBO.
Interesting.
So charcoal porter was the first beer in the LCBO, and it was the first beer that we did with Beer Town. And they're a big group, and they said, well, can you do us a beer for us? Sure. What do you want? Well, we want a porter. Okay. Porter was always my most hated style of beer when I was in Britain. It's like, meh. The only one I didn't mind was from Greenwich's Meantime Brewing. Proper London style porter. So I made a porter. I was actually quite happy with it. I thought it was good. We entered it into the Ontario Brewing Awards. We won silver. Entered it into the Canadian Brewing Awards. We won gold. So it's officially the best porter in the country. It's back in 2015. The LCBO has a product call for the winter. This is in June for winter beers, and they want a porter. So I call up my contact with the LCBO and I said, I want to submit, Canada's best porter to the LCBO. Oh, we're not interested. What do you mean you're not interested? Gold medal. It's the best porter in the country. Yeah, we're not interested. What? So I hung up. It's just fuming. A couple minutes later, my local MPP at the time, Diane Vermeil, calls. It's also coincidentally beer week. And she's like, well, I'd like to come out there for a photo op today if possible. I'm like, oh yes, please come out. So I bent her ear and she was absolutely gobsmacked that the LCBO did not want officially the best porter in the country for sale in Ontario, brewed by an Ontario brewery. And what I forgot to mention was that Monday, so I got the award on Saturday night. Monday, I got back to the brewery. I had an email from the ANBL, which is New Brunswick's LCBO. They're like, yeah, we want a skid of it. Get it out to us now. We'll pay for shipping. The LCBO? No, don't want it. So Diane will never say what she did. She must have done something because the LCBO called me. Yeah, we'll take that beer. What else do you have? Great. Thanks, guys. That is the level of stupidity you deal with. I had another beer, Two Night Stand, which was the 2016 gold medal winner double IPA, rejected from the LCBO. Other beers tasted better in the beer panel. I had this shiny statue saying, that's not fucking possible. What are you talking about? Give me the tasting notes. No, we don't give out the tasting notes. Well, how can I ever approve or improve if you don't give me the tasting notes? How is that possible? I don't think it exists. It's just whoever wants to grease the palms. That's how it works. And you see it. Why does Bose have 13 beers in at one time? Or, Flying Monkeys gets whatever they want in, and, they tell us, no, we're not taking anything else. But a new brewery that's not even a bricks and mortar brewery opens, contract beer, but they have 5 or 6 brands in it. How does that work? I'm actually supporting local bricks and mortar. Support me, but they don't. Anyway, yeah, I don't like the LCBO. I think they need to be blown up. But yeah, I don't think we're getting to the Goza, are we? I'm sorry I rambled.
I don't think we're going to get to the Goza. If you want to get to it, we can.
Mr. Junior, who's Mr. Junior?
Mr. Junior?
There was just a message that popped up on the bottom about LCBO Saskatoon, was it not?
So Mr. Junior's, he's
Hey,
very,
Oh, there we go. There's a Mr. Junior.
sorry, I just
Yeah.
put a photo of my still up.
Yeah, it's nightmare. And it's the same thing, going back to talking about James Davies at Alchemy, they were trying to deal with the LCBO because it is the world's largest alcohol buyer.
Well, they claim it is. There's some doubt about that.
Yeah,
But I go down to Niagara. Well, I used to go down to buy wine 2 or 3 times a year, and no one is happy with them there either. They do not support smaller producers. So they say they're large, but all they want is people who can provide them with bulk jug wine.
yeah.
And I don't mind so much that they're focusing on Ontario producers versus Saskatchewan producers. And Paddock Wood was not only where I bought my my local beer, but I buy my home brewing supplies back when I lived in Saskatoon.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that they don't support the local independents, that all they want is volume, 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 and for you to give them price breaks at every get-go.
Ah, hang on a sec. When I first started trying to get into the LCBO, when I opened the brewery, I was dealing with an agent, and the same agent specialized in wine. He was actually started off. His big beer person was flying monkeys. And so he was telling me the story. There was a new South African wine producer that was wanting to get into the LCBO. And he told this South African wine producer, sharpen your pencil and give us your best price you can do. So they submitted the best price they could. The LCBO looked at the price. They said, oh, this is far too cheap. We'll pay this more. Yeah. Your government in action. All right, it's just bonkers. So I miss the days of selling beer in Edinburgh to small little mom and pop places. People that gave a shit. They had a passion, the same passion that I did about my product. They had about their stores. I delivered, and I'm not saying every LCBO is the same. There's some great people at LCBOs like Orist and Guelph, passionate about beer. He's at the Speedville one. And there's a few other people, gems that we deal with. But by and large, they don't care. No, I've walked
Because
in.
they've got the wrong mandate, and the mandate needs to change.
Yeah. I don't know if it will change. I don't know if they can change. It needs to be small mom and pop places. I mean, and we already kind of have that. Like the agency stores are now figuring out that because I don't need to treat them like an LCBO. I can treat them like a licensee. So, Pims and Wellesley, Foodland and Air, up in Drayton, there's the Fresh Mart, or it's a Fresh Mart and Air, Foodland and whatever. These places that are agency stores, I treat them like a licensee. I can sell them whatever I have in can. It doesn't need to be an LCBO approved product. I can sell them whatever I have. And they can turn into these boutique microbrewery stores overnight. And some of them are getting it. Like, yeah, we can do this. You get people that would travel far and wide for that selection.
And I can provide some of that selection.
Thanks. How?
With this, or can you see my profile photo?
Looks like steel. I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my rig, 20 liters.
Oh,
It'll take
nice.
a while.
Yeah.
I'm not industrial quantity.
Sorry, there was a message that popped up, and I didn't quite see it, but it looked like what's my favorite brewery outside of me?
Yeah, that's Jen just put that up. She wanted to know who your favorite local brewery is apart from Innocente.
I had some people in today, and they were clearly from Toronto, and they came in, and there was 5 of them, and they've been to Cowbell for lunch, and they were working their way back, and sorry, I probably shouldn't say this, but I said, okay, where are you going next? Well, we're going to Descendants. Yeah. I said, what about Block 3 in St. Jacobs? So we've never heard of them. Go on Block 3. I said, you could maybe hit Aurora on your way out and then hit the 401, just a bit outside of Milton and come back. Well, that's a good idea. Okay. Yeah. I would say if I had to go out and have beer, I'd have a Block 3 Pilsner. What do they call it? Yarmir Lager Pilsner.
The Yarmir Lager is so good.
Pilsner's better.
Sure. What do you think?
You're outnumbered right now.
Aurora?
Yeah.
This might be getting too into the weeds, but what do you think of the Aurora Pilsner, Steve?
I've not had it, not since they switched brewers. The last, there was the Three Fields was their lager. Not a fan, but they've got Dave now from Welly. He's a good guy. I just haven't had a chance to get out, to be honest, and try it. I'm hoping to do this weekend if I don't have to do any shit around the house. Maybe get out and walk and try some beers. Maybe have a gin and tonic or 2 during the day, and then just get shit faced after that at home. What did I say that? Yeah, I did. Yeah. What do you think of it, David?
I'm not a big Pilsner guy, but I really quite like it. I'm honestly a big fan of their beer just as a whole. They released a series that when we had Dave on, I asked him about because I found it really weird what they were trying for, and the reason for it was this: is they have 2 beers. They're called Better Together. One, it was like a grapefruit pilsner and then a key lime pilsner. And I tried the grapefruit one and I didn't get what they were going for. And I hadn't tried the key lime one. And when I asked him on the call, he said, we're going for a Radler in style for the grapefruit one. But he admitted, he's like, we didn't nail the sweetness of it though. So that one's, we're hoping to get it better next time.
Mm-hmm.
But sorry, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, like, of the beers I make, my Pilsner is the one that I don't normally, it's like, whatever goes, let's do this, let's do that. It's not quite right. It's okay, I'll fix it down here. My Pilsner is like,
sure.
You do not mess with that because you cannot hide a mistake in a Pilsner. Any brewery you go to, try their Pilsner, try their lager. If it's shit, run. Don't walk away. Because they don't know what they're doing.
I always find that with the IPA personally, but I definitely respect it where it's like there's cores, and if you can't nail the cores, it really speaks to it. But the thing I was going to finish off with is their key lime one. He said he was going for a Bud Light lime style craft beer, and it is really good. It is really good. It's like, yeah, if you head over there, grab the key lime Better Together, it is super tasty.
Well, I'm actually going to crack the key lime now, if I can see. I mean, those of you that are still drinking, the key lime goza.
I mean, why stop?
Yeah. This is something we did a while ago, and it did well. Goes as a sour style from Gossen, or Gosen, I'm not really sure how to say it, to be honest, in Germany. And the groundwater is really quite strange. It has a really high sodium chloride level to it, salt level. So when I look at their water profile and I take sodium chloride out of it, it's actually very similar to the Afer's Pilsner water profile. So I just mimic that, and then we add salt back in at the end to mimic the saltiness. And it gives it a nice little sort of note. I got moths all over my laptop now. This one, and you can get the saltiness out of it. I like the background there. That looks good. Oh, you've vanished. But I've always been a big fan of key lime, and this one is a puckerer. That's why it's last, because you're not tasting much after this. It's almost like coconutty, limey. I really quite like it. It is fantastic with gin.
There are a lot of things happening in it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Any other questions, folks?
Well, there's a couple.
Uh-huh.
Proper pronunciation of your name.
Innocente.
Innocente.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Okay,
my
great.
entire life, I've never been called Innocente. And I've given up now correcting people.
Not Innocente?
Well, technically it's Innocente, but
Ah.
yeah, that just confuses shit. So we say Innocente.
Ah.
And then Graham had I think I know the answer to this one, but Graham had an interesting question. Can a brewer make or break a brewery?
Yes. I think so. I mean, it depends on your marketing. If your marketing's strong, it doesn't matter.
Can I preface my reasoning? It's when I used to sell to auto body shops who would refinish cars. And the one guy told me, he says, always follow the painter. The painter makes the job best.
Mm-hmm.
So one auto body shop would say, hey, we got a painter who does this, and they're great for a year. That painter leaves, goes to another body shop. That body shop's the best. So brewers have a following.
I think it's starting. I think other places have more of a deeper following than that now. I honestly think in Ontario, marketing wins, not quality of beer. I mean, there's a number of examples that I could say, but I'd rather not. That would show, but you just have to go to your LCBO and look at the shelves.
You may have even mentioned a local one tonight.
Yeah, well, that's an obvious one. I'll happily mention that one. But you know, Ace Hill. You know, like marketing, horrific product. Should not be on the shelves of any first world alcohol store. Not even the second world alcohol store. I think we're talking fourth or fifth world with that one, to be honest. But marketing wins. I don't think we're at the stage where people would follow a brewer around. I mean, that'd be great. I'd love to have fans. I don't really care anymore. I do what I do, and I do what I do for me, and I hope someone else likes it along the way. And that's it.
Steve, it's Terry here. Emma, she went to bed. I have a question for you. Now that she's gone, I'm unfiltered. I can ask my question. So
Wait, mute you, Terry?
No, she's gone.
Yeah, you better mute him now.
You're in charge, Bill. You can mute me. April 8th, 2014, we met you at Grand River Brewing.
Yeah, for that.
They had a
and
thing
I did that
called,
rant. I did the LCBO rant, didn't I?
They had a thing called Welcome to the Neighborhood. You were there. Block 3 was there.
Yeah.
A leather local that you've already mentioned was there at the time. Descendants, and somebody called Arch Brewing in Newmarket. I have no recollection anymore. We have a long record of this shit. We loved your beer, the Bystander. You brought Bystander. I think they did a terrible job of telling you what you were coming into. I didn't think they told you how much beer to bring. I think you showed up with a couple of growlers or something.
I don't even remember now.
So it would have been before you opened, April 14.
Yeah.
You filled it with the Bystander. It was super hoppy. And yes, I was just going to say, to this day, it was almost an epic rant on the LCBO in that room, and kind of shook some people up about, and this was before there was even a thought that they would have any kind of craft beer in the LCBO. But, you know, it was kind of fun, and we remember it to this day.
I still recall that old guy that I almost got into the fight with about. This is the best lager on the planet. I said, no, it's the worst lager on the planet. Everyone knows that. It's wildly known. No, it's the best beer on the fucking planet. And then, what's his name? English
Donnie?
guy. Pardon me?
Oh, was that Donnie?
No,
not Donnie.
I don't know who it was, but someone actually stepped in on my behalf because this guy was ready. Like, I would fight him too, but he was about 80. Wouldn't have necessarily been right, but sorry. Bystander, is that where your question is going?
Yeah, it was the first chance we had to talk Bystander. You talked about brewing hoppy beer that you like. In fact, kudos to you. You said a lot of things today that you said that night at Grand River 6 years ago, right? So,
I know there's a lot that's not changed. I mean, I'm a little, you know what? I'm still me. I'm good.
So our comment on the beer was far and away the best beer we had that night, and we said this guy is going to kill it because there wasn't a lot of beers like Bystander at the time.
Yeah. You know what? That's a strange comment because that later that year, later that year. So you said that was
April 2014.
Yeah. So I take a step back. October 2013, I went to Cask Days, and Scotland had an entire contingent of brewers that they brought over because they were trying to get into the LCBO. And James from Alchemy came over.
Cool.
And so I met him there. We had a few beers. I was horrendously sick that day, so I actually wasn't drinking. I was driving, which is strange for me. And he's like, listen, I've had these IPAs here. I've had these pale ales here. Your Bystander's gonna fucking kill it. You're gonna do great. Guess what? It didn't happen, Terry. It never happened. People didn't get it. You know, like beer that was critically acclaimed in Scotland, sold all over Britain. Same thing for Conscious. Beer that people raved about. I show up with the same recipe here, corrected for the water profile, and people don't get it.
Was it right beer at the wrong time?
It was right beer at the wrong time. You're right.
Like 2 or 3 years later, when everybody was trying to brew a beer that hoppy.
Well, even like I've been doing my Pilsner for 5.5 years now, and look at how many people have Pilsners, like proper Northern German style Pilsners. That is a beer I am most proud of. I'll put that Pilsner, and I have, up against any Pilsner in the country or in the world. I beat the Germans at their own game when I went over to Germany last year. I destroyed them with my Pilsner and Hellies, and then the double IPA just absolutely obliterated them. That's a competition for a different time, but I'll put my Pilsner up against anything. Bystander, I stopped doing it. It was too expensive. People would, this is too hoppy. This is it's like, I'm sorry, like, but you know, they weren't necessarily wrong. So when I would drink Bystander in Britain, it would be on cask.
Right.
And cask is a different beast.
Yeah.
You would find out, you would deal with the pubs that knew how to do cask. You would deal with them because in your mind's eye, you know what the beer is going to taste like. And if it tastes like it, you've hit it. And you go to a pub with a good cellarman, and that beer would taste better. And it's like, how the fuck did you do that? And that's the beauty with bystanders. Like, they could bring out stuff I didn't know was in there and make it better. But it doesn't happen here because we don't do cask very much. So it's either keg, which is acidic. It's a little bit harsh. Your bitterness comes out. You're not softening down with a slight oxidation. Same thing with bottle. So, I mean, I understand why people didn't like bystander. I do. I still think it's a great beer. It's how I got started. But I just don't do it anymore. I mean, now our pale ales are on trial, which are way softer than what bystanders. Like, people in Ontario don't want bitter. They don't want bitter. Not at all. And you talk to anyone in any portion of the drinks industry in Ontario, they don't want bitter from, gin, rum, any hard alcohol, cider, whatever. Ontario has a sweet tooth in terms of their alcohol. I'm not talking about you people here, but I'm like in general. And it's something that I just can't compute because I don't want to have a beer that's sweet. It shouldn't be. Beer is supposed to be dry and bitter.
Yeah.
Kind of like my personality and my sense of humor.
So Emma's alarm starts, so she's gone. These four were super solid. We need to get our hands on some more Innocente beer, especially that Kavite triple you got coming. Sounds.
Yeah, that is just gonna be gonna have some fun. I probably won't make any money on it. I've already got the hops in, and there's an absolute a brewing term, a fuck ton of hops.
Ton of hops. Yeah, so awesome. Thanks, Bill. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, folks. Bill, thank you for hosting. Been one of the most professional people I've dealt with. You people don't know the work that he puts in behind the scenes. He called me last night with a list of questions he wanted to ask. That's never happened to me before in any of this, and it was nice. It really was nice. He prepares. This is a spot-on thing, and I'd be open to doing it again. Just let me know. I'm here. I know I'm boring, but, I could put people to sleep. If you're suffering from insomnia, I'll put you to sleep. I'll read from the water chemistry book.
I think you would have a hard time putting anyone in this group to sleep, but maybe that would do it. Steve?
Well, Emma, I did.
Emma gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Goes off at 4 a.m., so she gets.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But I think, did we set a record here for recording, Bill?
This is a record.
Is it actually?
I thought Dave went long. This is a record. Steve, thank you for taking the time to.
My pleasure. Thank you, folks.
Remind
Thank you very much.
all of you that you have homework for next week.
Yeah.
Take time to watch that video from Alan, and then come prepared to question him because he is an expert in American cultural history.
Cool.
Next week, we're discussing the Prohibition and enjoying our favorite beers.
Can you send me a link to that?
I will send you a link to that.
Yeah.
And my favorite beer, by the way, so you all know, is the Charcoal Porter. I am going to enjoy that while I'm talking with Alan.
That's a great beer.
Speaking of Prohibition, we're having that right now with Mad Canada. The modern temperance movement. Keep your eyes on them. Gotta be careful.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You got to come next week, Steve, and ask that question.
Well,
I
I've
have
been
an answer for you.
as I said
Thank you all for joining
I
in.
said in the beginning, I've been on the other side of it. I've seen it. Yeah.
Just wait till next week's episode on Beer with Bill.
Yes. Take care, folks.
Bye,
Enjoy your
guys.
evening. It was really nice chatting with you. Thank you for your time. We'll
Thanks,
see you.
Steve.
Take care. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate everything. God bless. Take care.
Cheers,
Hey,
guys.
guys.
Is this the debriefing session, though? This is the